No, I like deactivated my account. I think my first one was like Moon Man or something like that.
Because you're a Kid Cudi fan?
Yeah, super big Kid Cudi fan when I was younger. I probably should have known I was depressed back then.
Yeah, Kid Cudi helped a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, shout out Kid Cudi. And then there's a couple of videos where he gets all weird, but
yeah, he didn't. You seen the Amazon documentary?
Nah.
He has a documentary on Amazon where he talks about how he doesn't like the rock album that he made. It's the one where he's like in a field. You know the
Oh yeah, you're talking about that speeding bullet one, something like that.
He said he didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with that. I think a lot of people feel the same way. To tell you the truth, I can't name one song on that album. Like I look at that cover art because it's like him on the field, and there's like a blur effect, isn't there? Like a blur effect. I think like a radius kind of thing. I don't really remember, but I feel like from what I remember listening. Yeah, exactly. When I listened to it, like that's what the cover gave. I was like, okay, like this is kind of like, now that I listen to it, I could tie it directly to the cover. I'm that guy. I'll judge a book by its cover. Yeah, like tread carefully, but that's like, I'm a visual artist, so that's just kind of what I do.
Welcome back to the Pause Pod. It's your boy Pause Prince. Today I'm accompanied by a photographer, a model, illustrator. He's in marketing. Very stylish individual. Man of many talents. Let's give it up for Noah. I think I do have effects on this. Yeah. And then your Instagram is Van Chico?
Van Chico. Like Van Gogh, but Van Chico goes into like one of my 4 different Instagram names from prior to this one.
The one that you're keeping, or
the one part of it that I kept. The last one I had was Chico Cream. Cream was specific, like cash rules everything around me. But part of it was also like the color cream. This off white was just kind of like my thing.
Yeah. And then you dropped it. And now you're Van Chico.
Yeah. I think it was just kind of like I don't know. I started. I'm like a D1 crash out, so I like kind of deleted my account for a while until like, then eventually I was like, I think I'm good to come back into
social media,
to the social media world.
Yeah.
And but I didn't really want to go back to the same name. I think part of it is just one of those like tied to, like, you have certain memories tied to the name, and like sounds kind of cliche, or
you might say, reinvent, but like yourself.
Yeah, I think part of it was like I wanted to kind of like reinvent myself, the way that I approach things. And for a while I was like just switching my name. I was just kind of like something, like a week later I'd change it because I didn't know what to pick.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, I was thinking art, like I want something cool but not doing too much, but I wanted to feel kind of like, oh, that's kind of fun. And then I also kind of like didn't really care as much not that I didn't care, but I think it was just kind of like I just wanted something that was not so regular, but also not so like, whoa,
not
you're
so
trying too hard, you know? So
is Chico like a nickname that you've always had, or?
Sort of. I think it's just like one of those like, Oye Chico.
Yeah.
Like kind of that. Like kid. I think for the most part, I've always felt like a little kid.
Have you ever? Yeah, I guess it's funny because like Chino is a thing too, right? Like not specifically for Asians, but like.
Oh yeah, like curly. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know if it's a Colombian thing, but they definitely used to call me Chino, or like, I don't know, Chino, Chico, but Noe is your real name? Noe is like your, like on your birth certificate, it says Noe?
3 letters, Noe.
That's fire. And then did anybody ever have like nicknames for that?
No.
Like no.
Yeah, nah. Chico is just kind of like a term of endearment. Same thing like Chino. I think it's just like a term that's just like a cultural thing. But Noe, no nickname for that. My nickname, if we're talking family wise, my nickname my family calls me Pelon.
Oh,
like
why?
Bald.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Pelon.
Pelon sounds like you would have a lot of hair, like a lot.
I can see why you say that. Yeah, I can see why you say that. Nah, but people will call me Pelon because when I was younger, my dad decided to give me like this buzz cut because I like had spots all over my, like not spots, but patches of hair. So he buzz cuts, and my oldest cousin, I think she was kind of, I think she was like 5 or something at that point. She starts like, oh, clowning me, like, haha, pelon, pelon.
Mm.
And it stuck. Like, that's just kind of like, you ever seen those things where like Hispanics will pick out your biggest insecurity and then call you for
Okay.
that, call you that for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how that started. Some of my family still calls me that. At one point, I had long hair down to like my lower back,
Mm.
and family that hadn't seen me in years were like, "Oh, pelon, like there's nothing pelon about you."
Yeah.
Um,
You've gone through like a lot of hairstyles.
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
I'm the same way. Yeah. I mean, I had long hair at some point too. I don't know if you. So I wanted to talk about how we met. I don't know if was it the first time we met at St. Rocks, or have we met before that?
Nah, that was the first time we met
was
in
the first time
person.
in
But I've known
person?
you for, I think like, well, I've known
Of
of you
Right.
since like 2020.
Mm.
Yeah. I had ordered a hoodie off you. It was like a black hoodie. It had a yellow. It had the Pabs at the pocket, and it had a yellow pig.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the hoodie I had.
You still have it?
Nah, one of my friends took it.
Damn,
Like
that's crazy.
it was at that point when we were in college. Like some of our like homegirls would just like, "Oh, can I get a hoodie?" And then they just go up to our rooms, like grab a hoodie, and then next thing I know, I haven't seen that hoodie in a while.
Yeah, it's so interesting because you, Izzy, and Stephanie all went to the same college, right?
Yeah.
And they have both been on the podcast, so you're like completing the trio. I don't think anybody else in your group, maybe Genesis could come on the pod, but she didn't go to that school, right?
No.
But yeah, so I feel like I already kind of knew stories about you from them, and like, but that St. Rock Studios was the first time I met you in person, and then I just remember you and Izzy like being very like welcoming or like friendly, I guess, and you and Izzy have been like best friends for a long time, right? Or
Yeah.
since high school, since college, or
college.
earlier?
I met him in college. It was my
Okay.
sophomore year. I transferred into Western. I started college in like a school in Colorado, smaller school, west of the Rockies, and they had an amazing design program.
But you're from Chicago, or you're from Colorado?
No, I'm from out here.
Okay.
Yeah. I went out there just because like I saw the school. I looked into it. The design program was amazing. They would I forgot the name of the conference, but there was a specific conference that would happen in Denver, where colleges would kind of go and compete, and that was one of the things that I was just like kind of looking forward to while I was out there. That year that I was there, when they went, there was like 3 students from some of the older classes, and they all placed in like top 5, right? It was like first, second, and then 5th, which was like at that point I was just like, whoa, I'm trying to get there.
Yeah, it's like a competition.
Yeah, it's like a competition. Do I know the details about it? Not really.
You just submit like a piece, like a art.
I think it was like a portfolio kind of
Okay.
thing where like you would pick a few projects that you did either freelance or like during class, and it would be like a conference kind of thing where they would actually go to Denver. Yeah, so I was there for a year, but I was having a lot of like family trouble at the time, and I think as a first time in college, you're just kind of like, I should probably go home.
Oh, okay.
So I transferred to Western, which is just closer. Still wanted to get away from home. I feel like it was a rite of passage thing. I was like, I need to get out. Like I need to go somewhere. And I didn't know anyone at Western. Like the only person I knew had just graduated, and I didn't really know anyone else. I just went there. I don't know why. To be honest, it was one of those like, I'm gonna go there, close my eyes and
pick graphic a design.
Yeah, and to tell you, like, I don't know, man. Like, not bashing the school, but the program there was not even remotely close to what
you needed,
what I needed, or what I learned in my first year. I would say like most of the stuff that I learned design wise, the most beneficial things came from
that other school.
Yeah.
Damn.
I learned a lot at Western. I met Izzy the first night. That person that had graduated, she was like, "Yo, I'm gonna introduce you to one of my friends," And then Izzy adds me on Snapchat. He's like, "Yo, you Janice's friend?" I'm like, "Yeah." Meet me downstairs. So I bet. Um, come out the elevator, we're like staring at each other, and he's like, "You know it." I was like, "You Izzy." And after that, took us to like one of our friends. Like at that point, his friend introduced me to everyone. Now we're all long term friends. Um, he showed me around Western, introduced me to all these different people that he had already met.
Right.
And then after that, it was just kind of like was just always working on.
Plugged it out. Also, let's take the shot.
Oh
Keep
yeah,
holding shit. All right. Cheers to design.
to design.
Oh my god. It's like
Oh
a
wow.
crazy burn. It feels like tahini's in there, but it's not.
Oh, why is it spicy?
I don't know. Maybe it's like some jalapeno or something.
Oh yeah, I think that's what it is for sure. Got a kick to it. Was not expecting that.
Okay, so you met Izzy. Then you guys dominated Western.
Ha, all crazy, all crazy. Nah, we would. I think Izzy was probably the person that I just kind of had the most in common with.
Yeah. And he was rapping out there too, right? Like
He
was.
was. But a lot of the stuff we were doing was just kind of like both of us were really trying to like build something. We didn't really know what we were trying to build, but we both wanted to build something, or at least like be able to say that we did something.
Yeah.
Why? I think it was just like out of care. I think first generation, or just kind of how we grew up. But both of us were just right off the bat, like you know, like what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing? Let's do something.
Would you say that there's like there's more people to your group, to like your gang, or is it just you two? Or because like I came up with like Matt Jr., Bryden, like we had a whole, and we call ourselves Decent Militia. Like we're just like a collective. Is there a collective for you guys, or is it just you two?
If we're talking like project wise, I don't think so. I don't think we ever really put a name to things. I think like
we had our homies.
Yeah, we had friends. I don't know if Izzy talked about it. I know Steph talked about it. She talked about her Greek life and like the sorority she was in.
Yeah. So you were also in
Izzy
a
and
fraternity?
I were in the same fraternity.
Like you guys were stepping?
Nah.
I don't know. Like I've only seen things on movies. Like I don't know that.
See, that's when I got to Western. I thought the same thing. I've only seen what's in the movies, you know. And I thought it was gonna be like that.
Yeah.
It's not
okay.
like that.
It's just like people looking out for each other.
It's kind of like every org has their own values, the things that they stand for. A lot of them are often tied to like community service, education, like academic excellence. Just kind of like part of it is just like if you're part of an organization, you think like Brown Berets, for example. They're all part of the same org. They all work together, the same values, and they're all working together to build something or educate people. And that'd be some of the stuff that we did. That's kind of the reason why I did it. Where it was just kind of like hosting events that were educationals regarding. Sometimes we would bring in partners that would talk about like tax advice, or we would do educationals related to our history, community service work. Depending on like the kind of organizations that you guys worked with. We worked with an organization called Big Brothers Big Sisters, which would be the adjacent of like the Boys and Girls Club of America. And we would do events that were kind of like educational regarding what would you call? I forgot what the event specifically was called, but it would be. We would invite a bunch of different organizations. Each organization would pick a country and they would bring like some sort of presentation or a dish, for example, something to kind of, this is this country's culture. This is how, this is the kind of food that they eat or the kind of music that they listen to.
Like a potluck?
Kind of, not exactly, sort of like some people would bring food. Some people would do performances. Like we would invite like some of the dance organizations. It's like, oh, we're looking at, this is what we're doing, and then they would do a specific piece that
like a showcase,
Latin American. Yeah, a lot of the orgs that we partnered with were Latin American orgs, so like Hispanic organizations, or at least Hispanic focused. Not that was the only thing we would cater to, but that's just a lot of us came from those backgrounds, and that's just what we knew. So that's the kind of stuff that we would do from that point, and that's part of the aspect that we liked Izzy and I, and then Steph too. Like I think Steph was not like Steph was somebody that we were really close to.
Yeah.
I think like she was same page, same
Mm-hmm.
thing, educating, educating the community.
And she's still doing that now. It's
She's
crazy.
still, man. Listen, nah. I'm glad she is, man. Seeing how we were at Western,
Mm-hmm.
um, and doing it on this larger scale, where part of the stuff was like we never got these opportunities, right? And we didn't get them until we got to Western, and or college in general. And some people never go to college, or some people like never get introduced to this kind of work or this kind of
Mm-hmm.
projects. And what Steph does is like gives people these opportunities, like first timers that have never been in an art show, for example. Gives them this opportunity, this platform to be in a show for the first time,
Right.
or some of the fundraising that they do. That's some of the stuff that we did back then. Same thing, like we would do fundraisers, and it would go to specific organizations depending on who your org looked at as a philanthropy. Same thing, we would do these fundraisers. Profits would go to some specific cause that they would choose. So seeing her do that still on a larger scale, like it's good to see, like
Mm-hmm.
happy for her.
It's crazy because you get out of the school, and I imagine like you're probably wondering like how do I or like what do I do now, right? Or I don't know if that's how you felt, but that's how I
Oh
felt.
yeah,
I went to Triton.
yeah,
I went to community college. I got my associates. When I graduated, I was just kind of like, okay, now what? And
yeah. Post grad depression.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah, I
real.
didn't know that was a thing, bro. And that
That's
shit
real.
hit me hard because I was also having a kid, and it's just like all this at once. But
That's part of the first generation experience. Are you first gen?
I don't think so. What? Because I
First
was
gen
born
is
in Colombia. I was born in Bogota.
no first generation. I guess like in the context of school, it would be like, are you the first in your family to go to school out here?
Out here, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, school.
yeah.
If you're in school, then yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. That's part of that first generation experience where like nobody's there to teach you what
Mm,
you're going to feel. Yeah. When I graduated, like things hit me like a truck.
yeah. And
Uh,
you do you have siblings?
I do. Yeah.
And but they're older or younger?
No, I'm the oldest.
Okay,
So
so you
like,
had to figure it out.
yeah, I had to
Yeah.
figure it out. Yeah, post grad depression is real, especially when like
Mm,
you're still trying to find a job, or you're still trying to figure out like, oh, I
right.
think a lot of what people feel is, I went to school, I have this degree, and now I don't even know if I want to do this for the rest of my life. Which is real, like you're telling an 18-year-old to pick a career, and then like this is what you're gonna do for the rest of your life, when it's like, oh, hold up, like
Right.
what?
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
what kind of Stephanie said, that she went for engineering, but now she doesn't do anything with engineering because she found more satisfaction doing what she was doing, like helping others.
Yeah, than
And stuff
actually
like
doing
that.
it. I know she was doing it for a while.
It's interesting because you don't go to school for that. Like you're like you weren't in school because you wanted to host events, and like you were in school to get the degree, but like
Oh yeah.
but
Yeah, I
the
think
extracurriculars is what made you want to.
that nah, exactly. I think the extracurriculars were definitely what helped me as far as like getting me places.
Hmm.
If it wasn't for this like community work that I did, the event programming that I did, and even in like being in these orgs, you hold specific positions and titles depending on like, if you run for one of the e-boards. I would hold roles that were related to social media, external relations vice president. So it'd be a lot of like working with other organizations to put events on together, collaborations, things like that. These are all the things that like I enjoy doing, but like you don't really. I mean, you could. I'm sure there's a program out there that you can, like
Hmm.
go and like learn this stuff and get like a degree in. But as far as design goes, at Western specifically, I didn't really gain much from it. I gained actually, let me take that back. When my silk screen professor or screen printing
You had a
taught
silk
me a
screening
lot.
class.
I did take a silk screen
Damn, that's
class,
fire.
yes. And she taught me a lot in the same way that my professor at at the Colorado
Mm,
school did. Very straightforward, cut the bullshit.
yeah.
but also like in a caring way, not in like I don't care about you kind of way, but in like the world isn't gonna care, and I'm just trying to prepare you for it, which is real,
Like
like
tough love.
yeah, yeah, I think, which is super important, especially as a creative, because I mean, at the end of the day, art is subjective, and people aren't gonna like your stuff. Um, yeah, like people aren't gonna, not everybody's gonna like your stuff, and that's okay. It's like it's not a personal jab. They're not coming at you for. I mean, if your work is directly tied to you in every way, and like,
What did was it Erica Badu? She was like, she has a quote that's like, "I'm sensitive by my art," and I
which
can't.
is real.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's real. I'm not saying like you can't be upset if somebody's not rocking with your work.
Mm,
I think it's just more so like it's not a personal attack. It's not like
yeah,
they hate you as a person, or they're slandering you as I mean, depends on the kind of art. Sometimes it might be a little controversial. Depends on like what you're portraying.
right, right.
Um, but at the end of the day, it's not a personal jab. And I think like a lot of us get caught in that sometimes, where it's like, oh dang, it's discouraging when people don't like your work. But part of it is also like, if you're only making things that people are gonna like, at some point you're gonna feel like a fraud. Or you heard that?
Yeah, it's
Uh,
probably Matt.
um, at some point you're gonna feel like a fraud, and
Right.
you're like, your work isn't real. So you have to kind of find this balance
Mm,
of making something that you like, but also something that people like, for the
yeah,
sake of like, I think it's a feel good feeling when somebody likes something that you made.
I seen. I don't know if it was a Rick Rubin quote or somebody in that field, but they're like, you don't get a creative block from creating. You get it from trying to make content of the whatever you're creating.
Oh yeah,
So like, and that yeah, that happens to me a lot. Like I go out of my way to try to make a video, and then like it's just like you're forcing it, you know?
yeah.
And
If you
it's
go
like
out of your way trying to get something that people are gonna like, yeah,
yeah.
it feels forced. But if you make something that you genuinely are into, and
Hmm.
people just happen to like it, that's the best feeling.
Yeah, it is.
And I think that's kind of how I started to approach like art.
Hmm.
I like,
As long as it's personal to you, I think it'll be
yeah, I think at the end of the
important.
day, yeah, for a while I was trying to like, I think like I was still not trying to do it actively, but there was still kind of this lingering dream in the back of my head that I wanted to be a artist and make
Mm.
a living out of it.
Well, you kind of are, or you don't consider yourself.
I consider myself an artist, yes,
Yeah.
but to make a living out of it is hard. Not in like a struggling artist kind of way, but the moment that you're tying like a monetary compensation where you have to make a living and survive off your
Yeah.
art, I think that takes away from.
Yeah, we're in the same boat because we both have 9 to 5s, but also like
Which
do
is
art on the
cool.
side. Yeah,
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 which is cool. I
Mm,
think, yeah,
yeah. Do you ever like see yourself leaving, or do you see yourself retiring at your job?
not anytime soon.
Yeah.
No, I think I like what I do, and I work with a team that is supportive
Mm-hmm.
when you don't have all the answers. Cuz like if you don't have, I think that's why teams are important. If you don't have the answer, somebody else might.
Right, right.
So I work with a team that's actually trying to grow. Well, I think like once people get into their careers, like people actually genuinely care now. Where it's like this idea that a lot of people are like, "Oh, that job doesn't care about you. Why should you care about it?" When it's like, nah, it's not entirely true. I think you should, and this is just a personal opinion. I don't know if you would agree, but I think you should care about anything that you're actually putting time into.
Yeah.
Because then it's just like, I think that's part of the reason people feel miserable. Where like, okay, like if you're doing something to pay the bills, if you're gonna be there, you might as well actually try to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Yeah.
I say that in general, not that I don't like my job. Like I love my job. I love my boss. I love my coworkers. Um, and it allows me this, like like I'm not sitting here. I used to work two jobs to the
Yeah.
point where I was working close to 80 hours a week, if
Was
not.
this after college? So this
Yeah.
this job that you have now isn't the first job that you got out of college.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It took me like a year to find this job. I've been at my job now for like 3 years, coming on 3 years.
Mm. I wasn't working 80 hours, but I was working 40 hours at a job I hated. But 80 hours is crazy. So you were working two other jobs.
At that point, yeah, after I finished school. Well, I worked 2 jobs to get through school.
Oh shit.
So I was waiting tables. I worked at IHOP and then I worked at Denny's after. So I'd be at IHOP in the morning and then I'd go to Denny's at 4 p.m. and then I'd like,
I hate Denny's. I don't know
ah,
why. I'm
I work.
sorry.
Hey, it was valid, it's
I
cool.
think it's the quality of food, but
Yeah, I mean, what
it's
can you
there for you
expect?
late night.
Yeah, exactly. What could
So-
you expect? But I made good money there. Like it
Nice.
got me through school. I never asked anyone for help.
Mhm.
I probably could have. Probably would have been better for my sanity.
Right,
I think sometimes I do feel emotionally stunned just because I didn't really spend a lot of time with myself. I was just working all the time. And
Just
like
grinding.
both and then I also worked at a restaurant called Uncle Julio's at one point.
Shout out Uncle Julio's.
Shout out
I know
Uncle
that
Julio's.
place.
Yeah.
They got good
They got fresh food.
good food and drinks, right? Or
Yeah,
like
they do. They got a chocolate piñata.
the chocolate pinata.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Now I like that place because people are like, "Oh, that's Tex-Mex. That's not real authentic Mexican food." I don't care. It's fresh. We used to get truck shipments every morning.
Yeah.
Like we didn't. Our freezer wasn't even big. The only thing we used our freezer for was, and this is like obviously I'm not speaking on behalf of Uncle Julio's. Like this is like my opinions are my own. But the freezer was only used for the chocolate piñatas.
Wow.
Like there was nothing else in there.
Because everything was fresh.
Everything was
delivered daily.
fresh, and it'd be like, and obviously like if something didn't run out the day of, like that's the first thing they're using the next day, like first in first out kind of thing.
I worked at Chipotle, so I know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
first in, first
exactly.
out is.
FIFO.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think like working in the restaurant industry or the retail industry is for sure something that people should do. I think it
least
builds
once in your life.
character. Yeah,
Yeah.
builds character for sure. But that's what I'm talking about. I worked in all of these external facing jobs where
right.
I'm constantly social, constantly like reading the audience. I wasn't that person that would talk to every table, but I also wasn't that person that was an asshole to every table. I think I was very good at reading the room. As soon as I got there, I was like, yeah, you don't want me to talk to you, or like, oh, you look like you want to have a conversation, and sometimes they would lead, sometimes I'd lead. But it was like really good at reading the room, and I didn't really spend a lot of time for myself. And then when I got to college, same thing. Like I was in the honors college, so I'd take all these random courses, like unnecessary courses, like this honors economics course where I'm like putting together a whole project for some. And if like depending on the project, like if the project was good enough, that would be actual execution. So it'd be like all these classes that weren't directly tied to my major. And it was
Just because, or
just
because you wanted to have.
just prove a point.
Okay.
Like just kind of like a ego thing where I was just like, I don't think it was an ego thing. I would say like insecurity is an ego thing. Where I was just kind of like feeling not smart enough or not intelligent. I felt like I wasn't intelligent enough and that I needed to prove myself in every room. And it wasn't just intelligence wise, it was also like work wise and like being able to get things done. So it was just kind of like constantly under pressure.
I feel like we're different in that aspect. I went to college, but I hated every minute. Like everything was like, I'll be good if I get a C. Like, I was like,
yeah, we opposite.
as long as I was reluctant. I was like, me and my friends are gonna get on by making clothes. Like I don't care. I'm not even gonna need this. And like, I got my associates, and I was out. Like I didn't want to do the bachelor's.
That's that youthful spirit that I was talking about.
But then you start to realize like, I don't know. Like I could have taken advantages of like the programs that they have, and like just being nicer. And like I hate that I don't have like mentors and teachers that I could look up to. That's one thing that Stephanie had, and I feel like you had like, your screen printing teacher. And like when I think of school, like if I go back to my schools, I have no one that I'm looking forward to like even saying hi to. Like I was always just on my own shit.
Yeah, I think it's part of that younger spirit where you feel like you have to do things in extremes or like careless or just you could get away with it. And you're just kind of like you know, you're like, "Oh, I don't need this, whatever, I'm gonna do this," which is like, it works for people. Like, people could get by, people be able to build things, you know, like, I mean, you're able to do something with it.
Right, right.
Like, you got your space, man. Like,
Yeah.
don't knock yourself out. But I think it was part of that when I got to college. It was like the community work. We're like, oh, we don't have role models. I didn't really, I think if I've always had teachers look out for me. I don't know what it is. They probably just saw me like, this kid need help.
Mm.
Uh, and in high school, I had a social worker. When, like,
Mm.
shout out to her. She's the one that was like, college. Like, what's going on? Things happening at home or whatever. Like, I think you should probably go somewhere if you really feel like you need to get out. She was kind of like the first real mentor, I would say. And then when I got to college, first professor, he looked out a lot. He was very like, we're gonna actually treat every critique as like a contest, like a competition, because like if your work sucks, like don't expect somebody to coddle you, because
Yeah.
like if they find somebody with a better portfolio, they're gonna pick that person. So
Yeah, I mean that's how it is with this artist shit. I mean, I've submitted to a lot of things, and yeah, you gotta,
yeah,
yeah.
it's part of that. Like, you got to take it to the chin. Not everybody's gonna like your work all the time,
Mm.
but like to an extent, you also kind of have to treat things like, okay, what can I do better? What's like, without having to sacrifice the actual heart that you put into it,
Yeah.
of course. Um, and then when he found out I was transferring, um, he's like, "Dang, you're not coming back." I'm like, "Nah." He's like, "Dang, what'd he say?" So I was a microaggression, but he meant well, so I was just kind of like, "I'll take it." He's like, "You're the little bit of spice this school needed." I
Mm.
was the only brown boy in those classes.
So then you transferred out of Western
No, that's when I transferred to
to Western.
Western after
Okay.
that, and
Oh
then
yeah, I can
that's
only imagine Colorado.
yeah,
Sorry. Okay.
yeah. Then when I got to Western, like I had a few mentors there, like the director of the Multicultural Center, which Steph would probably say was a mentor to her as well. Izzy would probably say the same thing. Um, and then they all both had like separate mentors depending on like the classes that they took. But then my silkscreen professor, she called me out on bullshit a couple times, or like she was super harsh
Mm.
on some of my critiques, and I was just like, you weren't this harsh on X persons or whatever. And it was like, I know you could do better. That's why. Like, I know you're full of shit right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, that's what she said, And I was just kind of like, I did take it personally. What will Michael Jordan say? I took it personally.
You like wanted to prove it wrong.
Yeah. So the next day, like the next critique, the next time I had class, I like spent hours at night. Just like we were doing like what's that black plastic where you're just scratching? Like we put black. Actually, I'm lying. It's not an actual thing. We took like a sheet of plastic and paint threw like black ink on top of it and like kind of spread it out and like get like black paint, I would say, and then we just scraped it off like a reverse, like an
It's
etching,
almost like charcoal, but not.
but backwards.
There's another. Yeah,
Instead of darkening it, you're lighting it and you're
Mm.
hatching it, because like you can't really shade. You kind of have to like the scratches. And I had a piece called it's called like My Sister's Protector. And it was a lion. At that point I was just like really into lions.
Yeah, yeah.
Um and I was like, I did this lion and I like went super detailed on it. And then after like the next critique, she's just like, yeah, exactly. You're full of shit.
Because it
Yeah,
was good.
because it was, yeah. And then it was also, she was like, now I know you're full of shit. And like now, like every critique, you better expect the same thing. And it was one of those things where like, I know you're being an asshole, but like you're doing it in a way like not to tear me down, but in a way that's like, you see something in me that I don't see in myself. And, that was like somebody that really looked out. And then I went to grad school at Western as well. And it was the director of the MCC that was just like, what about grad school? I was like, I don't know. And then a professor, an economics professor that I'd like from those random classes that I was taking for the honors college, he's just like at first I was struggling with economics. Like I was struggling so bad, I was failing. And I need to stop doing that. And me failing, like I wasn't that kind of guy that was like, if I get a C, I'll be all right. I was like, if I don't get an A, I'm like, I'm doing something wrong. Yeah. And Izzy used to clown me about that. He's like, bro, you over here tripping about grades and stuff. Like I'm barely about to pass, and you're over here tripping because you got a B. And I
Yeah.
was like, nah, like you don't get it. I think it's like it's obviously internalized things,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? But he was like, and then out of nowhere, I just kind of like he was talking about game theory, like
Mm.
the economics professor, Dr. Babin. Shout out Dr. Babin. He started talking about game theory, and all of a sudden it clicked. Like everything just in economics just
What is game
clicked.
theory?
Game theory is just kind of like, and I guess the best way you could put it is like capitalism is a game, like
Like a video, like a
like
just a
a
game.
game.
Like
Yeah,
you
it's
could
just
win
a
it, you
game.
could lose it.
Like yeah, if you win, like you have to figure out find a way to win.
Mm.
And it feels kind of dumb. I'm just kind of like it feels stupid because then it brings up like the prisoner's dilemma where um I guess the best way you can explain that one is like you two people get arrested. Either if neither one says anything, they're both free to go. But then they come to each one separately, and it's like, yo, so and so might be snitching. You get all paranoid where like if I don't say anything and he did, I'm gonna go to jail, or vice versa. Like if I do say something and he goes to jail, but then like you're turn like like you're sending somebody else to jail.
It's
So
like
there's that risk
a
that you
numbers
take.
thing. Like
Yeah, it's
it's
like a risk thing. Like that's part of that game aspect where like you could for sure get a win or like reduce your time if you say something or snitch, or you could say nothing and potentially take the chance of him saying or the other person saying something, and now you're in jail and they're not. So it's
mm.
like that dilemma where like or like if nobody
Yeah.
says anything, nobody's going to jail. But the risk exists of like like people get all like those tactics where like, oh, he already spoke,
Yeah.
like you're going to jail. Whole time they haven't said anything, they're just trying to scare you to say
Yeah. It's
something.
just fucked up.
Yeah, so it's like it's like that same concept, and you introduce it to economics where like then you get into like supply and demand and stuff like that where like
Mm.
if you start some business, for example, it could fail or it could win. Yeah, as soon as he started explaining all these other concepts, I was just kind of like, okay,
You're locked
I
in.
think I get this. And then he asked me like if I wanted to change my major, and I was a senior at that time, so I was just like, absolutely not. Like I'm about to graduate, I'm not changing my major now.
Yeah.
But then he brought up grad school, which was the second time somebody brought up grad school to me. So then I was like, oh no, maybe. And then I did. I was able to find an assistantship that paid for my program,
Mm.
and that's how I ended up doing grad school.
I wanted to talk to you about critiques because do they encourage you to speak about your art, or do they prefer that your art speaks for itself? You know how that's like a constant thing.
Yeah. Yes, they did, but they did it once everybody was done. Like everybody had to speak,
Mm.
and like everybody in the class, and then at the end you had the opportunity to be able to defend your project and like why you did it. And that was kind of part of the grade as well, where like if you were able to successfully defend your work, like your grade would be in a better place. But if you like defended it and it wasn't like a strong enough argument, and like design wise or depending on the class, um it'd be
Yeah.
that would kind of go into your grade as well. But sometimes it's like it's hard with art, and that's why people kind of like don't really take art major seriously, which
Mhm.
you know what, like some I get it, I get why like a lot of classes end up feeling very participatory. It's like, oh, you just because you did it, you pass.
Mm.
So sometimes there's like that fine line where like you also don't want to discourage somebody that's like learning something for the first time. But you also want to be aware of like the people that are actually naturally talented or actually a little more advanced.
To make sure to ask you the questions that people asked
Oh
because
no,
people did ask questions.
no, you're good, man.
I was wondering if you take that into like what you do now, because you're really good at telling stories with your art, and like
Oh, thanks, man.
the written
That means a lot.
the written caption that you write with it, and I'm sure you would do the same thing if you had a little tag next to your work, like how you would
I
explain
would,
it.
yeah.
But do you feel like the art can speak for itself, or are you speaking for it, or like?
I think it's a little blend of both. I think at the end of the day, like art is, like I said, art is subjective and people will interpret it as such. But I do take, this is where like, I do take my art seriously. Like I do put a lot of thought into it and time into the composition and what story I'm trying to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That Pinocchio one was fire too.
Thanks,
You just
man.
have a lot, like, but
Thanks, man.
it's just.
Yeah, I do take it very seriously.
It was like you came back with that too, right? Because you
I
you
stopped.
had taken a break.
Yeah, I did. I did, and that one, I sometimes like some of this stuff takes me like a while. You know, when I was younger, I used to think like, why does it take an artist like 6 months to a year to make one project? And as I got older and like started going to therapy, or at least like started to really unpack all these things that were like going on in my head, or actually sitting with them, I started to realize that there's a lot of emotions that I never really acknowledged. So when I like make art, I want it to feel like I'm actually putting something into it. That's why I say like I love my job, because it gives me the opportunity to like not work 80 hours a week and like actually take my art seriously, where like I could sit down and process things. Like I have a Pinocchio book that I bought when I was in Mexico City, and I bought it in Spanish. So it's just kind of like it took me a while to read it. Then I've seen Pinocchio, like both Disney and Guillermo del Toro's versions. And then I bought that one painting, a Pinocchio painting off Adriana. And so there's just kind of like, there's a lot of things that happen that go into it, and like
Right.
why I decide to go, you know. And then like you get into Pinocchio and like all these like, it's a performance, like you're a mask, he just wants to feel like a real boy.
Yeah.
Like doesn't really want people playing with his strings. He wants to do things on his own, but like so naive at the same time. People tell you to do something and you do it. And I think that's how I lived a lot of my life until I got older, and I was like, oh shit, hold on, I don't even want to go to school, but I did. I'm super grateful, not saying I regret going to school.
Right.
But it wasn't my decision. It was like what I thought would be the right thing, because people were expecting it out of me. So there was that, you know, like it's one of those things, like there is a lot of thought that goes into my pieces.
Do you ever have a moment where you make something the day of, or like right now, like if you just started something from scratch, you ever put that out, or have you? I don't know. I've had some of my, what I feel like are the rawest and like best designs,
And
or
they never
like
see the
drawings.
light.
No, that I put out the same day, just because like I don't know, I get in a mode, or I get motivated by something, and I want to drop it like right away.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? You have had some of those.
I think
or?
I'm not the kind of guy that could finish a piece in one day.
Okay.
I'll be honest there.
I don't.
I think like I'm
yeah.
also super detail oriented, so there's that side where I like put a lot of detail into my work. So there's not like pieces that I finish in one go, like in one day. But I have had pieces that like I just get this urge out of nowhere to do a piece,
You just want to knock it out.
and I want to knock it out.
Yeah.
And there's meaning into it, but not as much as like these pieces that I would put into a show.
Right.
Like a piece I'm working on right now is I'm doing an Ivan Cornejo piece. It was just kind of like a joke where like I always hate concert merch. Like it's so expensive, but it's kind of like not the best
Quality and stuff.
Yeah, that, you know, it's not even the quality. You know, sometimes I get like, you know, you're going to a concert, like you're gonna get a cheap shirt for a ridiculous price.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's like the designs that I'm like, either they're super lazy, and I'm just kind of like, but then that's kind of that aspect where like shit's like subjective, you know. Some people might think, oh, this is crazy, and you know, I might say like that this shit sucks.
Yeah.
Again, not a personal bash to the artist or whoever designs the merch, but it's just like this shit's not good.
You're doing a piece for a show coming up?
No. The Ivan piece, he has a concert at the end of the month, and I made a joke that I was just like, what if I just make my own shirt and like sell it outside in the parking lot like those other folks do?
Yeah, like the bootleg.
Yeah, like the bootlegs, because like
Yeah.
sometimes those bootlegs are better. You know, I'll be
Yeah.
like, oh, I wish I was like, I'm not gonna buy one because what if the concert merch is better? Then I get inside and I'm like, I should have got that bootleg.
Mm.
And also like sometimes I go to a flea market. When I was in Houston, I bought this bootleg Astros merch, like 2 different shirts. Like one of them was like a La Estrella, and it was like a loteria card
Yeah,
for like the
yeah.
Astros, and then there was another one where like a this dude swinging. It was like a bootleg stuff, right? Like it's not like official merch. I'm like, dude, this is better than the stuff you'd see at like
The actual
the games,
stadiums
you
and
know,
shit.
at
Yeah.
stadiums.
But it's because they're taking it from artists, right?
Yeah,
Sounds
there's like
I don't
people
think
that are
they're the ones creating it.
Yeah.
So you're trying to make something
Yeah,
fire.
yeah, and like, you know how I did that drawing where like Stephanie's hands, and then there's like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
drawing of
That
my
was the
other
one for the
drawing.
show.
Yeah, the one I did here.
Yeah.
Um, I saw, I think his name is Ozzy. If I like, I don't know him personally, but I know like of him through Instagram, and he's a photographer, videographer
From Chicago?
from Chicago,
Mm.
and he's shot Ivan's like a couple
Oh,
videos.
fire.
I think he did the Mirada video where like he's painting, like there's like a shot there, like it's like through the canvas, and like he's kind of painting the lens. It looks like he's
Mm.
painting the canvas. That I was like, damn, this is amazing. Like the video is great, but he did the photo shoot where Ivan Cornejo ended up like was on the Rolling Stone cover,
Mm.
and it's like Música Mexicana's Heartbreak Kid. And I was like, the photo was hard, the the Rolling Stone cover was hard, so I was like, I want to draw the cover of this magazine.
That's fire.
Uh, so that was one of those pieces that was just an impulse piece.
Yeah.
Also, like I love sad music, so
Mm.
Ivan's music is just sad.
It's just a world that I'm not familiar with, but I'm sure Aurora can like fangirl about it with you. Like Aurora and her family, they play that shit so much. I'm getting like
That's cool, man.
used to it.
I don't
gotta
think I
learn
got
it.
into Mexican music or like Spanish music until like, well, I didn't realize I liked it until like
Mm.
college. I think I grew up on hip hop, but then as I got older, I like realized I knew a lot more music than I thought I did, and like then I started paying attention to it, and it was one of those like, this is kind of my culture, like Mexican music. Why am I like trying to dodge it? And it's not just Mexican music, like bachata, like stuff like that. Like you
Yeah.
know,
Is bachata Mexican?
nah,
It's more
that's
Puerto
what I'm saying.
Rican,
Like now,
right? Okay.
it's not Mexican. You know, like
Mm.
you think it's like island. It's like like island music.
Mm. Caribbean.
Yeah, I grew up on reggaeton,
Yeah.
and so it's just kind of like, you know, I was like, you
That's
know
cool.
what, you know, and then part of it was just like that identity thing where like I thought I used to have a very black and white idea to like my identity, where like I have to be this way and this way only, when it's like, you know, that's not how being human works. You know, there's
You
a
can be
lot
a
of,
little bit of
you know,
everything.
yeah, you could be a little bit of everything, a little more of this than this, sure, fine, but like don't deny that you're certain parts of your identity. And I did that for a while.
Yeah. Especially, I think coming to the United States, like I it's like assimilating, right? Or like
Yeah, assimilating. You can't blame somebody for doing
right.
it. I think it's kind of sad,
Mhm.
but it's kind of real. It's like survival. You kind of have to.
So is that the piece that you're doing for the shirt?
Oh
Or
yeah, I'm doing like
okay.
I'm drawing the magazine cover. Obviously, I'm getting rid of all the other stuff because like there's like a top mention on the top of the magazine where it's like talking about Trump, or the Luigi case on the side, like all of these like headlines. I'm removing all of that from the drawing. The
That's
drawing is
interesting.
strictly just like the Rolling Stone,
And then you're gonna
his
screen print it?
face. Yeah, not me personally.
Right.
Like
You're
I
gonna take
got
it to a
somebody.
printer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one thing that I've been trying to push, and like at least with my work, I want to separate the art from the clothing. And I'm not saying you have to, but I encourage people, like, if you're gonna make a design for a shirt, like make it specific to the garment.
Oh yeah.
Because now I know a lot of people, they'll do like the painting, or they'll do the digital art, and they'll put the exact same image like on a hoodie, on a crew neck, on a shirt, and it's like
Copy paste, and
right,
it looks like a
yeah.
square.
Or yeah, then the
Like the
prints,
frame.
and then they do
Oh,
like
yeah.
keychains, and it's just like
The same. Yeah.
like make it specific to the garment.
Yeah, I see what
think
you're
that's,
saying.
like,
I think
that's the best shirt.
yeah. For sure.
You
I
know,
know exactly
little
what you're talking
aspects,
about.
like maybe you put a little sleeve print or like,
You know,
yeah, like,
cut certain pieces out, keep
right.
certain pieces. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I mean, you're not new to this. You've been like making clothes for
I've
a while,
sold
right?
shirts
But
for
it's
a
not.
while.
But is so
I think I sold my first shirt back in like high school, actually.
if you're like having to put a name on the brand, is it Von Chico now, or like when you sell these, you straight word of
Nah,
mouth or like Instagram or
nah. I get. I think that's a super valid question. Super valid. I do have my own studio. It's a private studio. It's like, to be honest, kind of like my space.
Mhm.
Like, I got my plants, my books. It's my space, and it's like I painted the walls myself.
Mhm.
I like got all the furniture, so it's kind of like my thing. And I don't think I'm at a point where like I'm ready to share this space. If I had to put a brand to it, I'd probably call it like
under this?
under the studio, no
Mm.
Casa de Perla. Um, but I don't think I really do it out of the sake of a brand. I'm not really pursuing. I do have a website that I take down and put back up whenever I like selling stuff through it, because
Okay.
you made a point before where like if you haven't really taken the time to put a website together, like which you have, and somebody's coming to you and they don't really have all of this stuff yet, it kind of like, I appreciate you trying to work with me, but as part of it is also like, I paid my dues, I did my time, like
Mm.
I've gone through like, and so it's kind of one of those things, and I get it. I think part of a website makes you official. It's like, you're not just selling somebody or cash apping and then putting trust in them that they're going to ship your order.
Yeah.
I think there's like a little bit of that, which again, I think when you're first starting, you kind of have to do that until
Mhm.
you can afford to like put up a website and like, deal with all of these things if you're designing it, whatever.
I think it's just important to like speak about like the foundation that you're building, or like what is the. I mean, it's all you at the end of the day. But if you keep rebranding yourself, or if you keep,
Yeah.
so then people don't know what to call it. Maybe they don't need to.
Yeah. No. Yeah, no, that's a super valid question. To be honest, like for a while I did try this whole like what's my brand?
Mhm.
Like I said, like I sold my first shirt back when I was in like high school, and I feel kind of embarrassed that shirt exists
Yeah.
somewhere out there.
See, that's crazy because I feel that way about that hoodie that you bought.
For real?
The only because the quality of that hoodie isn't what I could put out now. And it's funny because I'm gonna just speak on it really quick. I want to do an event where it's kind of like a repurposing or like a upcycling, where if you bring in like your old Pobs hoodie, because that specific design, I never really seen anybody embroider
The pocket?
the pocket. So I consider that like my signature hoodie, and I want people to bring in the old signature hoodie, and I'll give you a new hoodie
Damn,
with
that's
the higher
fire.
quality.
That's fire.
And then I could take the embroidery from those hoodies, and I could cut it out, and I could like put it on a patch, on
do
like
something with
else.
it.
Do
Yeah,
something with it.
that's hard.
So I definitely want to like push that, and this will be a reminder to myself to make that like event happen.
Yeah, now I'm not.
But yeah, you get
The
embarrassed
world's
of
seen
like
it. Now
the
you gotta hold. Now everybody gotta hold them to
exactly.
it.
You get embarrassed of like
Yeah, which is part of it,
the old
like,
work.
nobody's showing you, like, you don't really know this stuff at first. Like, at first it's just the idea, then you realize there's all these other details. Yeah.
Mhm.
You make a good point though with the whole like rebrand like 4 times.
Yeah.
I think I think part of it was that like I don't really know who I was, me myself personally. Like I knew what I was supposed to be doing,
Right.
but like I don't really know who I was. And I used brands, like I've gone like like I've had these different brands that I've tried to build at the time, and I was like, this is who I am. But it's like it's kind of hard to tell people who you are if you don't know who you are. So I
Mhm.
would base my whole identity off of whatever I was into at the time. And then I realized like I outgrew it. I was just like, that's not me. That's not me. But there's no shame about it. Like I think part of it is like, would I be where I'm at now if I didn't go through those
Yeah.
phases? Nah, I think it builds character. Like putting those cheap hoodies definitely like, like, oh, you know what? Not bashing your hoodies, but like I know what you mean about the quality. They did shrink on me a lot.
I'm sure it was like a Gildan hoodie. Like I apologize.
Nah, it's all good, man.
But yeah, that's why I encourage people to just use like their name or like something personal to them, because you're always gonna be at least that. So like,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
Chico Von Chico, I really hope
Oh
Stick
yeah.
with it. I mean, this podcast will probably have featured
Nah,
Bonchico on
for
it.
sure.
But
That's holding me to it. Nah, to be honest, like I don't really want to tie to the Instagram handle. I think
okay.
that's just Vanchico is just an Instagram handle.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Which is good too, because
like
a
I
lot of
don't,
people put so
yeah,
much emphasis on their Instagram, and
which I
then
get, you
they
know.
haven't.
I think like when you have a nickname and people know you by your nickname,
Mhm.
like that's kind of like shows that people know you, you know. And for a while, that's why I was like Chico Cream. Like even like there's people that still call me Chico Cream,
Yeah.
and I'm like, bro, please stop, please stop calling me that. And when it like comes to my work, um, I think I'm at a point where I just want to put my name, like Noe Jurado.
hmm
Like I just want to put my name under it, and that's it. Um, for a while, I was trying to come up with like these crazy ideas or like different color palettes when it came down to my work and like doing all this wild stuff, like tying into it, like making it super complex.
Mm.
And it's just too much, man.
A lot of
Like,
your work now is just like black and white, though,
yeah,
right?
I'm very
Like,
black and white now. I stopped touching color and I stopped touching paint. Um, so I've worked with paint. I've worked with silk screen, like screen prints, like pieces that have like 50 different screens of layers that I've had to put together. And I've done it all. Charcoal, like what is it? Oil pastels, watercolor, acrylic, colored pencils. Like I've done it all, spray paint,
mm.
and to tell you the truth, like it's kind of ironic. Like I'm coming back to graphite and
That's
charcoal.
what that was the word I was trying to remember.
Graphite,
Graphite.
yeah,
Yeah.
graphite and charcoal is what I came back to. And for one, I'm partially colorblind, so working with color was always
Mm.
hard, and I was always trying to prove a point that like, I'll be fine. Like watch me. But then it's like, you know what? Like who am I trying to prove? Like I'm not really enjoying the work. I hate working with paint. I hate working with oil pastels.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's like so messy. Not that charcoal isn't messy, but it's not as permanent. And
Mm.
I like that, you know, like you could erase things. You might still see smudges, but you could erase things. Like even if you get it on your clothes, like it'll wash off.
Right. Right.
It's not as permanent. Like I mean, unfortunately, like paper, like you know, some people are more inclined to buy a canvas than a piece of paper, but I think like eventually you'll find a target audience that supports your work, and
Yeah.
that's what you're doing. As long as you don't feel like you're selling out to an extent.
You can't do
Uh,
graphite on canvas,
I've
or
never
it's just
tried
like
it.
not common.
Nah, it's just not common. I think it's a
Like
texture
the texture.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a texture thing. Also, just kind of like it's not as permanent. Like somebody could still run their hands through it and smear it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's like finishes that you could spray on top of it, but that again, like it's not like paint that's dry and you could put your finger on it and like no problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. And then art wise, like just my name at the bottom. Like I get to focus strictly on the actual drawing,
Yeah.
and then my name at the bottom, the name of the piece, and that's it. I think that's where I'm at in life. Where
That's great.
if people are buying my art, and I think to be honest, the only reason I did the shirts, I do shirts, like it isn't so much like this is my brand and you're supporting a brand, like you know my merch or you know I think art is a luxury.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know like people are gonna think like you know like I need to feed my kids or I need to feed like I need to help pay the bills or I you know I can't eat like I can't eat, I'm broke, you know, like before they like buy like nourish their soul with somebody's work, you know. As
Mm.
much as I want to support everybody and every artist that I know, like I can't, I don't have, for one, I don't have enough space to like hope
Yeah.
have
Especially
everybody's
art.
work, you
Yeah.
know. So there's other ways to support people. There's not just like consuming. But part of it is that like I understand that, you know, I know not everybody's gonna buy a canvas off of me,
Mm.
and or like sometimes like I've had work sell for like 1,600. I think that's the biggest, like the most I've ever made off a piece.
That's amazing.
1,600.
And it takes a lot of confidence to price yourself.
Yeah,
Price it
it
that much,
does.
yeah.
And I'll tell you, that's like stuff that I'm like, that was a silk screen piece that I was talking about that took me
Mhm.
like 50 different layers, like 50 different screen preps that I had to do. And that was a $1,600 piece. It's not something that I'm proud of today. Like it's not something that I identify with today. Um, but like I know what my work has gone for in the past, and I know that a lot of people can't really afford that. Not like it's not a bash, and I'm not calling anyone broke, but like $1,600, that's somebody's mortgage.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's somebody's rent. And
Mhm.
like I know that's not realistic. So I do the shirts strictly because of people like art, and I want to make art as accessible as possible to as many people as possible without feeling like I'm selling myself short.
Mm.
Like, you know, like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
could make these drawings, sell them for $50. Like I've seen like plenty of people do because they're like, you know, trying to make a living off their art. But that, like, I don't know, it feels like kind of like I'm like turning my back on myself,
Mm.
you
Mhm.
know? And at least doing the shirts, like I get a shirt out of it because I always keep one for myself. Um, and then whoever buys one, and I always do limited runs, not in like a limited edition, but like part of it, like, you know, like I've never reran a design
Yeah.
um for the sake of rerunning it just to make more money. I think part of it is still that, like, well, these people bought a shirt at this point in time, and I still want to make them feel like they got something exclusive, even though it's not just one of one.
Mm.
Even though I have done one of one pieces for like gifts.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but those are designs that don't get seen like to the public,
Mhm.
or they, like, you know.
Yeah, like a little bit of like you still maintain your integrity as an artist, but you give a little bit
Yeah, so
to
that's
your
like really
audience.
why I do the shirts.
Mhm. I
But I'm
love
not
that.
really looking to build a brand right now. But eventually I do want to open up the space, like offer like a public studio space where people could come in and work and ideate with each other, and maybe offer internships. Like, you know, who knows, maybe 20 years down the line, I want to go back to school in 20 years, get my doctorate,
Really?
go to school, like teach. I
Is
want to
that
teach.
more of you trying to prove it to yourself?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Like, I want to prove it to myself that I'm capable without any external pressures. But I
Mm,
want to go back and teach a little bit, like part-time, like at a uni.
that's fire.
And like, you know, like, oh, once I, like, if I, you know, God willing, like, give me the opportunity to open up a studio where I could offer internships to like design students or marketers,
Mm,
and I have a few clients that I work with, and give them some on-hands experience to build a portfolio, and then they can use that studio space on their free time to do whatever they want, you know. I
yeah.
think you have to give them that sense of ownership, and you know what? I have this job that I work for this guy, but he's not telling me that this is my only option. Like, he's
Mm,
telling me that I could work with the resources that I got and figure out my way. And I think that's something that I like resonate with, you know?
yeah,
I
yeah.
think sometimes people give me advice and I'm like, look, man, I thank you. I appreciate it. But let me fuck up,
Mm,
you know? Like, let me scrape my knees. Let me get up. Let me realize that, oh, damn. Sometimes, like, there's lessons that I've like, I wish somebody gave me some advice. But for the most part, like, that sense of ownership that people give you to do your own thing and be your
mm,
own voice
there's more.
is more important,
Yeah.
while also giving somebody an opportunity. So that's my like 20-year goal down the
Yeah.
line that I want to eventually get to. But like, it's not like I'm not really looking to build a brand. And
Mm,
like, you know, when I was younger, yeah, sure, but like, it's not the only option, and I feel like a lot of people feel like that is their only option.
yeah. Yeah, I'm in between how to do this rebranding, and I wouldn't like how you like change your Instagram and you take a break from time to time. I always I was wondering, I think I had messaged you like, if we take this down, like, are you gonna like, would you want to like take this down eventually, like, or you're okay with like letting this live on forever? Like, when you take breaks, I'm always interested in why people
Oh
take breaks.
yeah, because I'm mentally ill. Um, nah. I think like a lot of the times I take the breaks because I'm probably going through something that is genuinely making me feel like I'm falling apart.
Hmm.
Um,
But are you the type to like tell people like, all right, I'm gonna go,
I'm a
I'm
ghost.
a ghost? Yeah,
Nah, I think like,
you just do it on
excuse me,
your,
I just do it, and
yeah.
like people are like, "Did you delete your Instagram
That's
again?"
exactly
And I'm
what.
like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I did."
Okay.
Um, I think like it does come from a place of I really just want to get my shit together.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's really that. Like, I want to get my shit together. I feel like I'm falling apart, or um, believe like I have deleted my account in the past out of heartbreak, where I'm just like, fuck. But like, you know, like, it's kind of me fucking up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of do it to myself, and now I'm like,
Mhm.
fuck. Like, what am I doing? Whatever. Um, and then all of a sudden I get this urge to boss up.
Yeah,
I guess the
yeah.
best way to word it, and which is ironic because like I think that's definitely a trauma response where like I have to hit rock bottom for me to want to get my life together again,
Mm.
and like
Yeah,
when
yeah.
it's like it doesn't have to be that way, like you don't have to suffer to grow. I think suffering is part of growing, and I think suffering is not something that you can get rid of entirely, but to create a scenario where now you're suffering, that's what I do. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
sometimes I'm like, you know what? I need to go away for a while. But like at that point it's just like I already did it. And now I
Mm.
have to figure out how to get myself out of those situations. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah. Like this last time around, I didn't deactivate my account entirely. Like I came back to the same I think I came back to the same name.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um but I did take a break for a little bit. That's when I
Mm.
like first started therapy, and then that's when I've been in therapy like 5 months now, a little over 5 months,
Fire. Does it's
and
helping?
oh, a lot
Yeah.
for sure. But when I first started, it was not. It was not. It was bad. I think it was one of those things where like even now I work 2 jobs.
Hmm. Oh, crazy.
Yeah,
I didn't know you had
yeah.
another
I have my career, and my boss is aware of this. If she
one.
happens to see this, like my boss is aware of this. But I only work on the weekends.
Mm.
Like I work Friday nights, Saturdays, and Sundays.
At the other spot.
Yeah, and it's just out of like it's not like I need the money. Like obviously it's nice. It helps me get rid of my school debt and like my other bills, and like still allows me like to have extra money to be able to live and like enjoy things and not deny myself certain luxuries. Um but like it's kind of that thing where like I don't really sit with myself.
Right.
So like
Interesting.
when I start to slip up on old habits, or I start to lose not lose control, because I don't think you can control your emotions, but like I start to lose the ability to regulate them as much, because I
Mm.
start to feel stressed out or anxious or start to feel overwhelmed because like certain things are starting to trigger me. So when I first started therapy, I like went sober at that point. Um like fully. Like I've been smoking like 15 like 12 years now.
Mm.
Um to the point where I was doing it every day, multiple times a day. And it was just kind of like, oh, I'm not addicted. I can stop wherever I want. But like then you really think about it, you're like,
Well,
oh,
you never take a break to prove like
yeah, nah,
yeah.
But then eventually, like like I've gone sober for months, for like 6 months in the past. Like it's not an unfamiliar topic. I think it's like I don't think it's like an addiction to specific substance thing. I think it's more so like I'm just overindulgent. Like I could drink like 4 energy drinks in a day just because
That's
I
crazy.
can.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not like like it's one of those things where like I'll just find something else to replace it with. So
Mm.
when I go sober and I like take these social media breaks, I like get addicted to self help. Like I started reading all these books, and I started to gain all this extra knowledge to get
Mm.
me out of these slumps. But when I first started therapy, it was like hard. It was hard. I think like I finally started to talk about my emotions and like why I did certain things, and like certain shame that I feel, and guilt,
Mm.
and all of these things, and imposter syndrome. You start to process all of that. And when you do it sober, not that like like smoking a blunt is like gets rid of all your problems, but you have heard like, oh dang, I'm feeling kind of stressed, I need to smoke a blunt.
Yeah, definitely.
uh it's like that. So I went
Mm.
sober at therapy, and like therapy kicked my ass for like the first month, where I was just overly emotional, crying. Like I'd be crying for like hours at a time.
But the therapist is so like, is that good that she could pull that out of you, or you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then at that point I was also kind of pulling it out of myself,
Mm.
where like I wasn't really listening to music either. Like I was when I would cook, no music, no show, while I was eating, like
Just quiet.
just quiet. And it's sad. It's
Mm.
super sad. um so I just got overly emotional, and then like once I like started to feel like I got a grip of things, that's when I like came back to social media.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
was just like, okay, hold up, I'm
Mm.
alright, until the next time I decide to start spiraling.
Mm.
That's what I'm talking about. Like I'm a D1 crash out. Like people talk
Do you,
about crashing out.
do you think because you're saying that,
It
like,
happens now. I'm
yeah.
speaking it into existence. Could very much be the case. Like I don't know. Do I want to be this way? Not
Mm,
really. I will say though, like the more you think about something, you know, like the more you start to actually move in that direction.
yeah, definitely.
Um, yeah, I think that's true. I think there is part of me that's like subconsciously like wanting to stay in this because that's like again that's the only way I feel like I could get better after.
Yeah, I mean, if it hasn't really like fucked up your life too crazy, it seems to be working. Like,
Yeah, I
like
mean,
your
yeah, it
process.
got me far, but like it's one of those things where like just because it gets you far doesn't mean that has to be
Yeah,
the thing that you do.
yeah. That's how we started the podcast. Like just Kid Cudi and like just like
Yeah.
the putting yourself in that position. And yeah, sometimes I catch myself like wishing I struggled more.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. Like I felt like I grew up having it easier than other people, so I didn't deserve it. And it's like,
Oh, that's a valid
yeah, you know what I
experience.
mean?
That's a valid experience.
How did your parents like feel about your art choice? Or like did did you like you had a supportive upbringing with your art or not really?
Sort of.
Mm,
Not sort of. Um my relationship with my parents is a little complex.
mm. You've been on your own for a while, or
For a
like,
while, I would say I'm pretty independent.
yeah,
Not in a way where like I'm discrediting their efforts. I think they did what they could as immigrants.
yeah,
But like when you come in at like as a teenager to a whole new country, not knowing the language,
mm,
not knowing where your next check is gonna come from, where you're gonna live, that does things to the brain where like goes straight into survival mode and
right.
like
Work.
work. You don't really emotionally develop until like you start to have kids, you start to like, you know, make all these mistakes. And then that's why like older people are so wise, you know, they've lived life. But my parents were young. They met at work and it was one of those like there was arguing a lot.
Mm,
They were very like self preoccupied, justifiably. Like they're trying to survive. They're trying to survive, and then they're trying to save the relationship.
yeah,
It's like you ever see those memes that are like when I'm at work and I'm trying to save my
yeah.
relationship. Maybe that's just a little too niche for me. And like bro is like hiding in the corner, like stressed out, like so like my parents were like that. And they
Mm,
were also super strict. My mom was mean. My mom was mean. That's part of that whole like I can't come home with a B. Cause like my
mm,
mom was like be pa burro. Like, you know, B for dumbass.
damn.
And you know, B is good, you know, like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like you're doing good, you know. But it wasn't like perfect. And that followed me for a while. Um, like even after like I moved out and I like started to do my own thing. It's like just because she wasn't saying it or like yelling at me or
You internalize that.
I internalized
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. But for a while I was resentful to an extent. Like it did teach me like, you know, like you can always do better. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can always strive to more. You don't have to settle. You don't have to beat yourself up if you like mess up or you can't get it right or you can't get it perfect. But you can excel and then you can desire more. And then my dad, he wasn't so much focused on the grades specifically,
Mm,
but like he moved out when I was young, like 9, and my dad was always like gifting me these self-help books when I was like a kid.
crazy.
He gave me this book like Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Bro, I'm 9 years old. Like calm down." And I get it, you know, like it was one of those like I don't want my kid to deal with what I deal with, like, you know, but like that was his whole thing. That was his whole spiel where it
Mm,
was just like, "Oh, you're on your phone. That's not, you know, like stop wasting time or like, you know, that's not important. That's not going to get you anywhere." So that was his whole thing. So I just kind of grew up in this whole environment that was just like constantly like not good enough,
yeah.
you know? It was just like everything I did was wrong. So I like internalized that a lot. And then I grew up with a little sister who I tried. my best to not have her go through the same stuff. But one of the things she struggles with is like living under my shadow, where like everybody's always paying attention to you and like how good you're doing, but nobody's paying attention to me. Even though my sister did a lot better than me, like to this day, she's still doing better than me. She's in school now, she's trying to be a nurse practitioner. But if we're talking high school, she was ranked 8 out of 800 students. I was like 16 out of 600. 8 out of 800. That's like no,
Yeah.
way better. um, So it's like it's kind of like that. So it's like we both had our own things. Then once I started working, like I like kind of had to like provide for myself. Never really asked anyone for money. Paid my like school. I had like got myself on. So like I get what you're saying. Where like struggle does put a fire under your ass. Where like if I don't get my shit together, I'm gonna like fail.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't think it's entirely necessary. I think like to this day now, it's like goes back to that thing where like I have to put myself in these stressful situations for me to be able to lock in.
Yeah.
And I try to be self-aware, but like it's one of those things that like back to the beginning of the podcast where like stuff like that follows you forever. Like, you know, follows Kid Cudi, follows all of us. You know, it follows all of us.
If you could just shout out your socials and your website, I guess, when you have it up. You don't have it up right now, right?
I don't have it up right
Okay.
now. But when I do have it up, it's casadeperla.com.
Fire.
Socials, I really just have Instagram, unless you're trying to connect with me on LinkedIn.
No Twitter or X?
No Twitter.
TikTok?
Oh, TikTok I do have, but my TikTok and my Instagram are both the same. Ben Chico, VAN dot Chico, CHIKOGH.
And look out for the Ivan.
The Ivan Cornejo. Super limited. I think I might have like 50 shirts that I'm doing, and really it's just because I wanted one. But
yeah, are you gonna try to sell them outside the concert?
Yeah. I'll be outside in the parking lot. So if you're at the Ivan concert, make sure you try to find me. Get your shirt.
Let's go. I'm Pause Prince everywhere and Palpable. We're working on a new website. We're gonna have a launch party May 25th. So I'm trying to merge Pause Prince and Palpable under one website. It's gonna be pablole.com under like my real name.
Yeah.
And this will be an event here at PSA Chicago, 2515 West North Avenue. We're open Thursday through Sunday, 12 to 5 p.m. Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you, bro. I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course, man. Thank you for having me.